First contact deception. The massive space station Concordia rotated slowly against the backdrop of nebula clouds, its crystalline spires catching the light of 3 distant suns. For centuries, it had served as the central hub of the Galactic Confederation, where 23 alien species conducted their affairs in supposed harmony. Today, however, tension filled its grand halls. "The humans have arrived," announced Zartex, his violet skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed his anxiety. As chief diplomatic officer of the Confederation, he had opposed this meeting. High Commander Drevin clicked his mandibles in annoyance. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with an exoskeleton of iridescent blue, he dominated the observation deck. "I still fail to see the purpose of this courtesy. They've barely achieved stable interstellar travel. Their presence here is premature by at least 3 centuries. Politics," Zartex replied simply. "The Solarian Republic's application for observer status cannot be ignored after they assisted the Nephili during their resource crisis. Charitable works do not equate to technological readiness," Drevin said dismissively. "Have you seen their ship?" Both officials gazed through the vast, transparent dome at the vessel that had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The human ship, designated Artemis, appeared almost primitive compared to the sleek, organic curves of Confederation vessels. Its angular design with visible plating and conventional thrusters seemed outdated, even quaint. "Instruct the delegation to use simplified terminology," Drevin ordered, "and ensure they understand we're merely humoring their presence." The docking procedure took longer than standard protocol as the human vessel struggled to align with Concordia's automated systems. When the airlock finally cycled open, 6 humans entered in navy blue uniforms adorned with silver insignia. "Captain Elena Reyes of the Solarian Republic vessel Artemis," announced the lead human, a woman of average height with olive skin and sharp, intelligent eyes. "We're honored by this historic invitation." Zartex performed the formal greeting gesture, his 6-fingered hands moving in complex patterns. "The Confederation acknowledges your journey. Please follow me to the council chamber. Try not to touch the corridors. They're biosensitive and might react unpredictably to your physiology." If Captain Rice detected the condescension, she gave no indication. Her 5 officers, a diverse group of humans varying in appearance, but united in their alert, observant demeanor, maintained perfect formation as they followed Zartex through Concordia's living architecture. The council chamber was a vast amphitheater with rising tiers where representatives from all Confederation species sat or hovered according to their physiological needs. The human delegation looked small standing in the central platform, their blue uniforms stark against the chamber's pearlescent floor. High Minister Thela, a gaseous entity contained within a hovering translucent sphere, drifted forward. Her voice emanated through a translator field. "Humans of Sol, your development has been interesting to observe. Though your warlike tendencies and technological inefficiencies remain concerning, your persistence has earned you this audience." Captain Reyes stepped forward. "Thank you, High Minister. The Solarian Republic comes seeking friendship and knowledge exchange, with hopes of eventual membership in your esteemed Confederation." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Commander Drevin didn't bother to hide his amusement. "Membership. Your species still fights among itself. Your energy systems rely on crude matter-antimatter reactions. Your weapons are kinetic projectiles and basic particle beams. What could you possibly offer the Confederation?" "Perhaps a fresh perspective," Reyes replied evenly. "Sometimes the newest eyes see what others have grown blind to." High Minister Thela's sphere pulsed with soft light. "We offer protected status instead. The Confederation will ensure advanced civilizations do not interfere with your development while you evolve." "We prefer partnership to patronage," Reyes said, her voice firm but respectful. Before Thela could respond, emergency signals flashed throughout the chamber. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, showing multiple vessels approaching Concordia at high velocity. Their design was unlike any Confederation ship, organic yet predatory, resembling deep-sea creatures with biometallic carapaces and pulsing energy sacs. "The Voidborn," whispered Zartex, his bioluminescence dimming in fear. "They're early. The tribute isn't prepared." "Tribute?" Captain Rice asked, her posture suddenly alert. The chamber erupted into chaos as representatives rushed toward exits. Commander Drevin was already issuing evacuation orders to his security teams. "What's happening?" Rice demanded, grabbing Zartex's arm as he attempted to flee. The diplomat hesitated, then spoke rapidly. "The Voidborn emerged from the quantum rift 50 years ago. Their technology surpasses ours in ways we cannot comprehend. They demand resources, technology, and, occasionally, sentient specimens for study. In exchange, they spare our worlds from annihilation." The station shuddered as the first energy pulses struck its outer shields. Alarms blared in multiple alien frequencies. "You've been paying protection money to cosmic bullies," stated Rice, her expression hardening. She activated her wrist communicator. "Artemis, this is Captain Rice. Execute Protocol Prometheus. Authorization Sierra 9 Delta." "Captain," her first officer questioned. "They need to see who we really are, Commander Chen." Rice turned to her crew. "Nguyen, Okafor, help evacuate civilians from the lower decks. Rodriguez, coordinate with Artemis for defense measures. Chen, you're with me." As her officers moved with practiced efficiency, Drevin returned to the chamber, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Your little vessel needs to clear the docking bay for evacuation ships," he ordered. "With respect, Commander, my ship isn't going anywhere," Rice replied. "In fact, it's about to become your best hope for survival." On the holographic display, the human vessel began to transform. Panels shifted along its hull, revealing sophisticated weapon systems far beyond what the exterior had suggested. The apparent structural weaknesses reconfigured into a formidable battle configuration. "What deception is this?" Drevin demanded. "Not deception, prudence," Rice corrected. "Humanity learned long ago the value of keeping certain cards close to the chest. The Artemis fired, not simple projectiles or basic energy beams, but coherent pulses of graviton energy that warped spacetime around 3 Voidborn vessels, crushing them into themselves. The remaining attackers hesitated, clearly not expecting resistance of this magnitude. "Impossible," whispered Zartex, who had remained frozen in place. "Those are gravity manipulation weapons. Your species shouldn't have that capability for centuries." "We're quick studies," Rice said simply as she watched her ship systematically dismantle the Voidborn attack force. "And we've had reason to advance our defensive capabilities rapidly." A larger Voidborn vessel moved into position, its central maw opening to reveal a massive energy projector. Before it could fire, the Artemis released what appeared to be a small probe that accelerated toward the enemy command ship. The probe detonated in a controlled quantum implosion, creating a localized distortion that sheared the Voidborn vessel in half. On the communication frequency, a guttural voice suddenly broadcast throughout the station. "Humans, you have interfered where you do not belong. The collective remembers. Your worlds will burn for this transgression." Captain Reyes stepped forward, her voice steady. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Solarian Republic. Consider today a notice of eviction. The protection racket is over." The remaining Voidborn ships began to retreat, their formation dissolving into chaotic escape vectors. In the suddenly silent council chamber, the few Confederation officials who hadn't fled stared at the humans with new eyes, not dismissive, but wary and calculating. "You deliberately misrepresented your technological capabilities," High Minister Thela accused, her sphere pulsing with agitation. "We showed exactly what we wanted you to see," Rise acknowledged. "Earth has learned through bitter experience to measure potential allies before revealing our full strength." "Allies?" Commander Drevin's mandibles clicked rapidly. "This was your plan all along. Wait for a Voidborn attack, save us, and place us in your debt." "No, Commander. We genuinely came seeking partnership," Rice corrected. The Voidborn attack was coincidental, though perhaps fortuitous. It forced our hand, but it also showed us something important about the Confederation. "And what might that be?" asked Thela. Captain Rice gazed around the nearly empty chamber that had, moments ago, been filled with the Confederation's leadership. "That perhaps you need us more than we need you." As emergency teams worked to repair the station's damaged systems, Zartex approached Reyes cautiously. "The Voidborn will return," he warned. "And in greater numbers. They've never been defied like this before." "I'm counting on it," Reyes replied, her eyes fixed on the stars beyond the observation window. "But next time, they'll face more than one human ship." Commander Chen appeared at her side, datapad in hand. "Captain, long-range sensors detect unusual activity at the quantum rift. It appears the Voidborn are massing forces." Reyes nodded. "Contact Earth. Tell them we need the Perseus fleet." She turned to face the remaining Confederation officials. "Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings, I suggest we prepare for war." Alliance of necessity. 3 days had passed since the Voidborn attack. Concordia Station hummed with frantic activity as repair drones swarmed its damaged sections. In the central command hub, Captain Rice stood before a holographic tactical display showing the approaching Voidborn fleet, over 200 vessels of varying sizes, all converging from the direction of the quantum rift. "They'll reach us in approximately 36 hours, reported Commander Chen, his fingers dancing across the control interface. "The Perseus fleet is still 18 hours out." High Commander Drevin clicked his mandibles skeptically. "Your reinforcements will arrive too late. We should evacuate the station while we can." "Running won't save you this time," Reyes replied without looking away from the display. "The Voidborn aren't coming just for Concordia. They're coming for retribution. If we abandon this position, they'll simply follow and pick us off one by one." The command hub's doors parted as Zartex entered with High Minister Thela's hovering sphere. Behind them walked a tall, muscular human woman in combat armor. "Captain Reyes," Zartex began, "this is Major Sarah Kaminsky from your Perseus fleet. She arrived via high-speed courier." Reyes nodded in greeting. "Major, I wasn't expecting advanced personnel. Special Operations thought you could use some help with integration," Kaminsky replied. Her eyes swept over the alien technology surrounding them. "I see why. Permission to speak freely, Captain. Granted. These defense systems are impressive, but improperly configured. The Confederation has been fighting defensively for so long they've forgotten how to take the initiative." She gestured to the display. "And their battle doctrine is entirely predictable. The Voidborn have been studying it for years." High Minister Thela's sphere pulsed indignantly. "Our tactical approaches are based on millennia of interstellar conflict experience. And they've been failing against the Voidborn for 5 decades. Kaminsky countered bluntly. "It's time for something new." Over the next hours, tensions flared as human and Confederation military experts clashed over strategy. The humans proposed unconventional attack patterns, dynamic defense configurations, and combat methodologies that violated established Confederation doctrine. "This is madness," Drevin protested during a particularly heated exchange. "You want our ships to deliberately break formation to create what you call organized chaos. That contradicts every principle of unified defense." "That's exactly why it will work," insisted Kaminsky. "The Voidborn expect you to form your traditional crescent defense pattern. They've countered it successfully dozens of times, but they've never fought humans." As the strategic debates continued, Captain Reyes noticed Zartex receiving a private communication. The diplomat's bioluminescent patterns shifted rapidly, a sign of distress in his species. "Excuse me," Reyes said, stepping away from the main group. She approached Zartex quietly. "Is something wrong, diplomatic officer?" Zartex hesitated, then guided her to a secluded alcove. "I've been monitoring internal communications as you requested," he whispered. "Someone has been transmitting to the Voidborn detailed information about station defenses, your ship's capabilities, and, most concerning, Coordinates for your home system. Reyes's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. Can you trace it? Not precisely, but the transmission patterns suggest it originated from the Confederation High Council's secure levels. I'm not surprised, Reyes admitted. Fear makes people desperate. Some would rather sacrifice others than change their ways. The station shuddered slightly as the Artemis undocked, preparing for combat maneuvers. Moments later, 5 more human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the advanced scouts of the Perseus fleet. In the observation lounge, Commander Drevin watched the human ships with mounting unease. "They're too prepared," he muttered to his aide, as if they anticipated everything. "Sir," the aide replied hesitantly, "there's something else. Our intelligence division intercepted a transmission from the humans. They've known about the Voidborn for years. They've been studying them from a distance, analyzing their attack patterns and weaknesses." Drevin's compound eyes widened. Why wouldn't they share such critical intelligence? The transmission suggests they were waiting for the right moment to engage, when their intervention would have maximum impact on interstellar politics. The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. They've been manipulating us from the start. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Lieutenant Rodriguez of the Artemis crew worked alongside Confederation scientists, analyzing voidborn biological samples collected during the previous battle. "Their cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen," remarked a Nephili scientist, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence as she studied the microscopic imagery. "It's almost as if they're not entirely organic," Rodriguez finished for her. "Look at these nanoscale structures integrated with the biological components. They're synthetic." The revelation spread quickly through the station. The Voidborn weren't a natural species, but artificially created or modified beings. As the information reached Captain Reyes, she immediately called an emergency meeting with the Confederation leadership. "This changes everything," she declared, presenting the findings. "The Voidborn are bioengineered weapons. The question is, who created them, and why?" High Minister Thiela's sphere darkened momentarily, a sign of deep distress. "There is something you should know, Captain. Something few within the Confederation are aware of." The truth emerged slowly, reluctantly. Decades ago, certain factions within the Confederation had discovered ancient technology in the quantum rift. Technology they didn't understand but attempted to weaponize. The experiment had gone catastrophically wrong, creating the entities now known as the Voidborn. Rather than admit their mistake, these factions had orchestrated the tribute system, secretly funneling resources to their creation while maintaining the facade of an external threat. "You created your own enemy," Reyes said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "And you've been feeding it for 50 years, allowing it to grow stronger while your own civilizations stagnated in fear." "You don't understand the complexities," began Drevin. "I understand corruption and cowardice perfectly well." Reyes cut him off. She turned to her officers. "Prepare for immediate engagement. We're not waiting for them to reach the station." The human battle strategy defied conventional wisdom. Rather than forming a defensive perimeter around Concordia, the human ships, now joined by the main Perseus fleet, advanced directly toward the oncoming Voidborn armada. They moved in seemingly random patterns, constantly shifting formation while maintaining a complex, underlying coordination. From Concordia's command center, Confederation officials watched in astonishment as the humans executed their unorthodox attack. Small, agile fighter craft deployed from the larger vessels, using Concordia's own gravity, well to accelerate to unprecedented speeds before striking Voidborn ships at their vulnerable junctions. "They're targeting the synthetic components," observed Zartex, watching the tactical display. "How did they identify those weaknesses so quickly?" The battle raged for hours. The Voidborn, confronted with unfamiliar tactics, struggled to adapt. Their attempts to counter human maneuvers led them into carefully laid traps. When they tried to retreat and regroup, they found hyperspace inhibitors waiting in precisely calculated positions. The tide turned decisively when 3 human vessels synchronized their weapon systems to create a cascading quantum disruption that severed the Voidborn's apparent collective consciousness. Without their unified coordination, the remaining enemy ships fell into disarray. As the last Voidborn vessel was disabled, a profound silence fell over Concordia's command center. The Confederation leaders stared at the tactical display, trying to process what they had just witnessed. "The threat is neutralized," Captain Rice announced, breaking the silence. For now. In the aftermath, as emergency teams assessed damage and casualties, High Minister Thela approached Captain Rice privately. "Your intervention has changed the balance of power in this region of space," Thela acknowledged. "The Confederation Council is reconsidering your application for membership." Rice smiled slightly. "That's gracious of you, Minister, but in light of recent revelations, the Solarian Republic is reconsidering as well." "What do you mean?" "We came seeking equals to stand with, not an empire built on secrets and submission," Rice explained. "The Confederation needs reform, transparency, and new leadership. Once those changes are underway, perhaps we can discuss a genuine alliance." 2 weeks later, a historic agreement was signed aboard the Artemis. Not a treaty of human membership in the Confederation, but the foundation of a new interstellar accord, one based on mutual respect and shared responsibility. The humans would provide military protection and technological assistance. The Confederation would contribute its vast knowledge of galactic civilizations and biological sciences. As Captain Reyes stood on Concordia's observation deck for the final time before departing, Zartex joined her. "You knew more than you revealed, even at the end," he said quietly. "Your scientists understood the Voidborn too quickly. Your tactics were too precise." Reyes watched as a Confederation vessel docked alongside human ships, their crews mingling in the first joint operations exercise. "Earth has been watching the stars for longer than you realize," she admitted. "We learned from your successes and your mistakes. We saw a galactic community with remarkable achievements but critical vulnerabilities. And now the game has changed," Rice said, turning away from the viewport. "For all of us." As the Artemis disengaged from Concordia and prepared for the journey home, its communication system received an encrypted transmission from deep space, well beyond the quantum rift. The message contained only 6 words: "You have awakened something much worse." Captain Rice archived the message with a calm that belied its ominous implications. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy. The deception was over, but a new chapter was just beginning.